The ancient shipyard hung suspended in the void like a mechanical ghost, its vast structures wrapped in centuries of cosmic dust. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the viewport of Outpost Station 9, her dark eyes fixed on the deteriorating facility that housed humanity's last hope. Behind her, the alien delegation whispered among themselves, their translators creating a soft chorus of disapproval. This is what Earth sends to join the Galactic Defense Coalition. Krixtal, the lead diplomat of the Arcturian Confederation, didn't bother hiding his disdain. His crystalline form shifted colors from diplomatic blue to a dismissive amber. A mothballed shipyard and promises of outdated technology. Elena's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. 20 years in the Earth fleet had taught her patience, especially when dealing with aliens who thought humans were barely out of their Stone Age. The Phoenix Project represents the culmination of 50 years of human innovation, Ambassador Krixtal. Innovation? The crystalline being chimed with what passed for laughter among his kind. Your species only achieved FTL travel a century ago. The ships in this facility are relics compared to our fleet. Before Elena could respond, the station's emergency alerts blared to life. Red warning lights bathed the observation deck in their angry glow as Lieutenant Marcus Chen burst through the doorway, his dark uniform disheveled. Commander. Long-range sensors have detected multiple quantum signatures approaching from the Carina arm. They match the pattern of the swarm. The whispers behind her ceased instantly. Even Krixtal's crystalline form paled to a sickly white. The swarm, a mysterious force that had been systematically destroying colonies along the galaxy's outer rim, wasn't supposed to reach this sector for another month. How long? Elena demanded. 48 hours at their current velocity, Commander. Krixtal's form vibrated with agitation. This is impossible. Our calculations. We're wrong, Elena cut him off, already moving toward the command console. Lieutenant, begin emergency protocols. I want the Phoenix prepped for launch in 12 hours. The Phoenix? Krixtal's translator nearly shorted out with his incredulity. That obsolete vessel cannot possibly stand against the swarm. We must evacuate the sector immediately. Elena's fingers flew across the console, bringing up schematics that made the alien delegation cluster closer in curiosity. Ambassador, what you see in that shipyard isn't just an old warship. It's humanity's answer to threats exactly like this. The main screen filled with technical data that made even Krixtal's dismissive posture falter. The Phoenix was indeed built on the frame of an old Earth dreadnought, but that's where any resemblance to obsolete technology ended. Its hull was lined with experimental quantum shift plating, capable of adapting to any form of energy weapon. The drive system incorporated principles that humanity had kept secret from their alien allies, for good reason. Impossible, one of Krixtal's aides whispered. These power readings cannot be accurate. Oh, they're accurate, Elena allowed herself a small smile. You thought we were behind because we kept using our old ships. The truth is, we never stopped improving them. We just got very good at making them look harmless. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of activity. Elena watched from the station as maintenance drones swarmed over the Phoenix's hull, stripping away decades of accumulated debris. Beneath the grime, sections of the hull began to pulse with a soft blue light as systems came online for the first time in years. Krixtal appeared beside her, his crystalline form now tinged with what Elena had learned to recognize as embarrassment. Your deception was impressive, Commander. But even with these modifications, the Phoenix is still just one ship. The swarm travels in groups of hundreds. That's why we're not going to fight them conventionally. Elena turned to face the alien diplomat. Ambassador, I'm about to show you why humanity never rushed to build new ships. We learned long ago that it's not about having the newest technology, it's about understanding how to use what you have in ways nobody expects. The station's viewport polarized automatically as the Phoenix's main drive came online. What started as a low hum quickly built into a resonance that made the station's structural supports vibrate. Arcs of energy, unlike anything the alien delegation had seen before, danced across the old warship's hull. By the first light, Krixtal breathed, his form shifting through colors of awe and fear. "What have you done to that ship?" Elena's smile grew wider as the Phoenix's systems reached full power, its presence now impossible to ignore. "Would you like to find out, Ambassador? Because in 48 hours, the swarm is going to learn why humanity never throws anything away. We just make it better." The ancient warship broke free from its moorings, sheets of ice and debris falling away to reveal weapon systems that definitely weren't in any official registry. As it moved into position, its silhouette against the star-filled background was both familiar and utterly alien, a perfect representation of humanity's approach to warfare. "Your quarters on the Phoenix have been prepared," Elena said, already walking toward the station's docking bay. "Unless, of course, you prefer to evacuate with the rest of the diplomatic corps." Krixtal's form crystallized into a decision pattern. "I believe I will stay, Commander. It seems I have much to learn about humans and their innovations." As they walked to the ship that would either save or doom them all, Elena couldn't help but think about how often humanity had been underestimated. The swarm was about to learn the same lesson that Krixtal was beginning to understand: sometimes the most dangerous weapons are the ones that don't look dangerous at all. The Phoenix's bridge hummed with activity as Elena guided the ancient warship through its first real space maneuvers in decades. Her fingers danced across the neural interface controls, feeling the ship respond like an extension of her own body. Behind her, Krixtal watched with gradually diminishing skepticism as system after system came online, each one defying his expectations of human technology. "Your neural interface," he chimed, his crystalline form reflecting the holographic displays surrounding them. "It's more sophisticated than anything in the Confederation fleet." Lieutenant Chen, monitoring the weapons grid, allowed himself a small smile. "That's because we designed it to work with human biology specifically. Turns out our brains are pretty good at handling multiple data streams simultaneously." Elena felt the ship's quantum sensors ping a warning before the alert even reached her console. "Multiple contacts emerging from FTL," she announced, her mind already processing the tactical display through the neural link. "Swarm scout vessels, bearing 27 Mark IV. Scouts." Krixtal's form shifted to alarm amber. "They're 12 hours ahead of schedule. This is why we need modern prediction algorithms. Or we could just ask them nicely to stick to their schedule," Chen quipped, earning a crystalline sound of disapproval from the ambassador. Elena ignored their banter, focusing on the tactical situation. 3 swarm scouts, their biomechanical ships resembling predatory insects, had dropped into real space just outside the system's heliopause. They weren't supposed to be here yet, but that's what made them so dangerous. The swarm never did what you expected. "Commander," Krixtal moved closer to her station, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Standard protocol would be to retreat and alert the defense fleet. The Phoenix cannot possibly." "Watch," Elena interrupted, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "Lieutenant Chen, initiate shadow protocol." The Phoenix's lights dimmed as power was redirected to systems that definitely weren't on any official manifest. The hull's quantum shift plating began to pulse with a barely visible pattern, like a heartbeat in the void. Elena felt the ship's consciousness merge more deeply with her own through the neural interface, showing her possibilities that no conventional computer could calculate. By the first light, Krixtal whispered as the tactical display showed the Phoenix seemingly fade from sensors. Not like a cloaking device, those were useless against the swarm's biosensors, but like a ghost, there and not there at the same time. "Quantum probability manipulation," Chen explained, his fingers flying across his console. "The ship exists in multiple states simultaneously. The swarm can't track what they can't definitively detect." Elena guided the Phoenix through the quantum probability fields like a dancer, each movement precise and purposeful. The swarm scouts swept the system with their biosensors, their crystalline antennae probing for any sign of prey. On the tactical display, their search patterns were beautiful in their complexity, and completely useless against human ingenuity. Impossible, Krixtal breathed, watching as the Phoenix slipped between probability states. The energy requirements alone would be impossible with conventional technology, Elena finished for him. Good thing we don't rely on conventional anything. Lieutenant, weapons check. Chen's response was interrupted by a sudden shift in the swarm vessel's behavior. Their search pattern collapsed as they oriented toward a specific point in space, directly toward the Phoenix's position. They've detected us. Krixtal's form paled to near transparency. Elena's grin never wavered. No, Ambassador. They've detected exactly what we wanted them to detect. Lieutenant, deploy the quantum lures. The Phoenix's obsolete weapon ports opened, releasing what appeared to be simple probes. The swarm scouts immediately moved to intercept them, their biomechanical forms vibrating with predatory anticipation. Those drones, Krixtal observed, his scientific curiosity overtaking his fear, they're generating the same quantum signature as a small colony vessel. The swarm hunts by detecting quantum signatures of advanced technology, Elena explained as she maneuvered the Phoenix into position. So we learned to speak their language. Lieutenant, on my mark. The swarm scouts surrounded the quantum lures, their crystalline weapons charging for what they thought would be an easy kill. That's when Elena revealed why humanity had spent decades perfecting the art of looking harmless. Mark. The quantum lures detonated, not with conventional explosions, but with targeted probability collapses that twisted spacetime itself. The swarm scouts, caught in the quantum wake, found their biomechanical systems trying to exist in multiple incompatible states simultaneously. Fascinating, Krixtal moved closer to the tactical display, his form shifting through colors of scientific excitement. You've weaponized quantum uncertainty itself. Elena nodded as the swarm scouts writhed in the quantum field, their highly evolved systems proving to be their greatest weakness. Sometimes the best way to fight an advanced enemy is to make them fight themselves. The bridge crew watched in silence as the swarm scouts' biomechanical forms began to break down, their quantum structures unraveling at the most fundamental level. Within minutes, there was nothing left but scattered particles, their perfect order reduced to cosmic chaos. Commander, Krixtal's voice had lost all trace of its earlier condescension, I believe I owe you and your species an apology. We assumed that because you kept using these older vessels, you were technologically stagnant. We never considered that we might have had a good reason for keeping our true capabilities hidden. Elena finished, finally turning to face the ambassador. Humanity learned a long time ago that sometimes the best innovations don't look like innovations at all. The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts, hundreds of them, all bearing the distinctive signatures of the main swarm fleet. They had arrived early, drawn by the death screams of their scouts. Well, Elena settled back into her command chair, feeling the Phoenix's systems surge in anticipation through her neural link. Looks like we get to show them what else this obsolete ship can do. Ambassador, you might want to hold on to something. Things are about to get interesting. The swarm fleet filled the tactical display like a storm of angry stars, their biomechanical ships moving with the coordinated grace of a single organism. Elena felt the Phoenix's systems respond to her heightened awareness through the neural interface, power coursing through circuits that had waited decades for this moment. They're forming an enclosure pattern, Lieutenant Chen reported, his hands steady despite the overwhelming odds. Standard swarm tactics, they're treating us like a conventional target. Krixtal's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained panic. Even with your quantum technology, we cannot possibly survive against such numbers. We must retreat to. Ambassador, Elena interrupted, her voice carrying the calm confidence of someone about to reveal their best hand. Have you ever wondered why humans still use physical view screens when holographic technology is so readily available? The question caught the alien diplomat off guard. I assumed it was another example of your species' technological limitations. Elena's smile held secrets. Lieutenant, activate the quantum resonance fields. Let's show our guest why sometimes old technology is the best technology. The Phoenix's conventional viewscreens suddenly transformed, revealing layers of reality that no holographic system could process. The space around them became a symphony of quantum possibilities, each swarm vessel surrounded by a corona of potential futures and pasts. Remarkable, Kriegstall breathed, his form shifting through colors of wonder. You found a way to visualize quantum probability in real time. Better than that, Elena's fingers danced across her neural interface. We've learned how to choose which probabilities become reality. Lieutenant, initiate the Schrödinger protocol. The Phoenix's hull began to pulse with patterns that seemed to defy the very nature of spacetime. Energy readings that should have been impossible on a ship this size peaked in valleys as reality itself bent to human ingenuity. Multiple swarm vessels altering course, Chen reported with professional detachment. They're confused. Their biosensors can't establish a fixed position for us. Through the quantum-enhanced view screens, they watched as the swarm fleet's perfect formation began to break down. The biomechanical ships, designed to process and react to concrete reality, found themselves trying to engage a target that existed in multiple states simultaneously. You've weaponized uncertainty itself, Kriegstall observed, his scientific background finally grasping the full scope of human achievement. All these years, while the Confederation focused on building bigger, more powerful ships. We learned to fight smarter, Elena confirmed. The Phoenix doesn't need to match the swarm's firepower. We just need to make their advantages work against them. Lieutenant, deploy the probability mines. The Phoenix's obsolete weapon systems came alive, launching what appeared to be simple debris into the space between them and the swarm fleet. Each piece of debris carried within it a quantum core designed to disrupt the very fabric of reality. Their biomechanical systems are highly evolved, Elena explained as the swarm ships began to encounter the probability fields. Which means they're extremely sensitive to quantum fluctuations. When faced with multiple conflicting realities, they watched as the first wave of swarm ships encountered the probability mines. The biomechanical vessels began to twist and distort, their highly ordered systems unable to cope with existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for years found themselves torn apart not by conventional weapons, but by the fundamental uncertainty of reality itself. Fascinating, Kriegstall moved closer to the viewscreen, his diplomatic reserve forgotten in the face of such revolutionary technology. You've turned their greatest strength, their perfect biological and mechanical integration, into a critical weakness. Elena nodded, but her attention was already focused on the next phase of the battle. The remaining swarm ships were adapting, attempting to find patterns in the chaos. They're learning. Good thing we've got more than one trick up our sleeve. Lieutenant, prepare the temporal inverters. Commander, Chen's voice carried a note of concern. The inverters haven't been tested in actual combat conditions. The power requirements alone could. Trust me, Elena's voice carried absolute conviction. This ship was built for exactly this moment. The Phoenix's engines began to hum with a new frequency, one that made Kriegstall's crystalline form resonate uncomfortably. Through the quantum-enhanced viewscreens, they watched as localized bubbles of time-distorted space began to form around key points in the swarm formation. Time itself. Kriegstall's translator struggled to convey his mixture of awe and horror. You're manipulating the temporal dimension. Not exactly, Elena's fingers never stopped moving across her neural interface, guiding the Phoenix through the quantum probability fields with impossible precision. We're creating areas where time becomes uncertain. The swarm's biomechanical systems require perfect temporal synchronization. When that synchronization breaks down, the effect was beautiful in its devastation. Swarm ships caught in the temporal distortions began to experience time at different rates. Their perfectly coordinated attacks fell apart as some ships experienced seconds while others lived through hours. The biomechanical integration that made them so formidable became their undoing as organic and mechanical components failed to maintain temporal cohesion. "Your species," Krikstal's voice was barely a whisper, "you've surpassed everything we thought we knew about warfare." While the Confederation focused on building more advanced ships, "We learned to change the rules of the game entirely," Elena finished. "Sometimes the best way to win isn't to be stronger or faster. Sometimes you just need to make your enemy fight themselves." The remaining swarm ships began to retreat, their perfect formation now in shambles. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The swarm would adapt, learn, come back stronger. That's why humanity had spent decades preparing, hiding their true capabilities behind a facade of technological stagnation. "Commander," Chen's voice cut through her thoughts, "we're detecting quantum signatures from multiple vectors. It's the rest of the swarm fleet. They're coming." Elena felt the Phoenix respond to her anticipation through the neural interface, power building in systems that had yet to reveal their full potential. "Good," she said, allowing herself a fierce smile. "Let's show them what else this old ship can do." The void erupted with light as hundreds of swarm vessels tore through the quantum fabric of space, their biomechanical forms writhing with predatory anticipation. Elena felt the Phoenix's systems surge in response, the neural interface translating the ship's readiness into a symphony of sensations that danced along her nerve endings. "They've adapted to our quantum resonance fields," Chen reported, his fingers flying across his console. "The swarm is generating some kind of temporal stabilization matrix." Krikstal's crystalline form pulsed with concern. "As I feared. The swarm's collective intelligence allows them to evolve countermeasures rapidly. We should." "Watch," Elena interrupted, her smile carrying the weight of centuries of human innovation. "Lieutenant, initiate the Lazarus Protocol." The Phoenix's hull began to glow with an inner light that seemed to absorb the very darkness of space. Power readings that should have been impossible for a ship this size spiked across every sensor in the system. Even the swarm vessels paused their advance, their biosensors trying to make sense of what they were detecting. "By the first light," Krikstal whispered, his form shifting through colors of disbelief. "These energy signatures, they're identical to the quantum aftermath of a supernova," Elena finished. "Turns out when you study something long enough, you learn to replicate it. Lieutenant, deploy the stellar matrices." The Phoenix's weapon ports opened, but instead of conventional armaments, they released what appeared to be fragments of starlight itself. Each fragment contained within it the compressed potential of a dying star, held in perfect quantum suspension. "Impossible," Krikstal breathed. The computational power required to maintain stable stellar matrices would exceed anything a conventional computer could handle, Elena agreed. "Good thing we're not using computers. The neural interface doesn't just let me control the ship, Ambassador. It lets the entire crew share the computational load. We're not just flying the Phoenix, we're becoming it." Through the quantum-enhanced viewscreens, they watched as the stellar matrices began to interact with the swarm's temporal stabilization fields. The result was beyond anything Krikstal had seen in his centuries of diplomatic service. Space itself seemed to fold and unfold, creating patterns that shouldn't have been possible in normal reality. Multiple swarm vessels experiencing critical system failures, Chen reported, his voice tight with concentration as he helped process the massive data streams. "Their biomechanical integration is breaking down at the quantum level." Elena guided the Phoenix through the chaos like a conductor leading an impossible orchestra. Each movement was precisely calculated to maximize the effect of the stellar matrices while minimizing the strain on the ship's systems. Through the neural interface, she could feel the rest of the crew working in perfect harmony, their shared consciousness extending the ship's capabilities far beyond its design specifications. "Your species," Krikstal's voice carried a new note of understanding, "you didn't just improve your technology. You found a way to merge with it completely. Humanity learned early on that our greatest strength wasn't in building bigger weapons, Elena explained as she initiated another sequence of stellar matrix deployments. It was in understanding that technology is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. The swarm fleet's formation began to collapse as more ships succumbed to the quantum cascade effect initiated by the stellar matrices. But Elena knew better than to celebrate too early. The remaining vessels were already adapting, their collective intelligence working to find a way through the Phoenix's defenses. Commander, Chen's warning came just as Elena felt it through the neural interface. They're attempting to synchronize their biomechanical systems. If they succeed in creating a unified quantum field, they won't. Elena's confidence never wavered. Because we're about to show them something they've never seen before. Lieutenant, prepare the entropy cannon. The command sent a shock of recognition through Kriegstahl's crystalline form. The entropy cannon? But that's just a theoretical weapon. The Confederation's best scientists concluded it was impossible to. His words died as the Phoenix's forward section began to transform. Panels that had appeared to be simple hull plating reconfigured themselves, revealing layers of technology that defied conventional understanding. The entropy cannon wasn't just a weapon, it was a testament to humanity's ability to turn scientific theory into reality. The swarm exists as a perfect integration of biological and mechanical systems, Elena explained as power began to build in the impossible weapon. But perfection has a weakness, it can only exist in a state of low entropy. So we asked ourselves, what happens when you force a perfect system to confront the fundamental nature of chaos? The entropy cannon fired, not with a beam or a pulse, but with a wave of pure probability that swept through space like a tide of chaos itself. Swarm vessels caught in its effect began to experience the heat death of the universe on a localized scale. Their perfect biomechanical integration became their undoing as ordered systems collapsed into fundamental randomness. Remarkable, Kriegstahl moved closer to the view screen, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his diplomatic reserve. You've weaponized the second law of thermodynamics itself. Elena nodded, but her attention was already focused on the next phase of the battle. The remaining swarm ships were pulling back, attempting to regroup and analyze this new threat. But she knew they were running out of time. The entropy cannon had taken more power than expected, and the Phoenix's systems were showing signs of strain. Commander, Chen's voice carried a note of urgency, primary power core is approaching critical levels. We need to. The ship shuddered as the first swarm counterattack hit home. The quantum shift plating absorbed most of the impact, but Elena could feel through the neural interface that the Phoenix had taken damage. The remaining swarm vessels had adapted faster than expected, coordinating their attacks to probe for weaknesses. They're learning, Kriegstahl observed, his form pulsing with concern. The swarm's collective intelligence is formidable. Even with your advanced technology. They're not just learning, Elena interrupted, a fierce grin spreading across her face. They're doing exactly what we wanted them to do. Lieutenant, initiate the Prometheus sequence. It's time to show them why humanity named this ship the Phoenix. The Phoenix shuddered as its systems initiated the Prometheus sequence, power coursing through circuits that had waited generations for this moment. Elena felt it through the neural interface, not just the ship's response, but the combined consciousness of her entire crew, their minds merged with the vessel's quantum core in perfect synchronization. By the first light, Kriegstahl whispered as the Phoenix's hull began to transform. Layers of quantum shift plating reconfigured themselves, revealing patterns that seemed to draw energy from space itself. What is happening? Remember how I said humans never throw anything away? Elena's voice carried the weight of centuries of preparation. The Phoenix isn't just a ship, Ambassador. It's a proof of concept. Lieutenant, full power to the stellar forge. The ship's forward section opened like a blooming flower, revealing a core of energy that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. The remaining swarm vessels recoiled, their biosensors overwhelmed by readings they couldn't process. You've created an artificial star, Kriegstall's form shifted through colors of awe and disbelief. But the energy requirements would be impossible for any conventional power source, Chen finished, his hands steady on his console despite the strain of maintaining the neural link. Good thing we're not using conventional anything. Commander, Stellar Forge is approaching critical resonance. Elena felt the power building through the neural interface, the combined consciousness of her crew working in perfect harmony to contain forces that could tear reality apart. The Phoenix was never meant to be just a warship, she explained as space itself began to warp around them. It's a testament to everything humanity has learned about the nature of reality itself. Through the quantum-enhanced view screens, they watched as the Stellar Forge's energy began to interact with the quantum fabric of space. The swarm vessel's perfect biomechanical integration made them exquisitely sensitive to quantum fluctuations, a weakness humanity had spent decades learning to exploit. Multiple swarm signatures destabilizing, Chen reported, his voice tight with concentration. Their collective intelligence is trying to adapt, but the quantum cascade is overwhelming their ability to maintain coherence. The Stellar Forge's light grew brighter, its energy reaching out to touch the swarm fleet like fingers of divine fire. But Elena knew they were running out of time. The Phoenix's systems were never meant to contain this much power for long. Hull integrity at 60%, Chen warned. We can't maintain the forge at this level without. We don't need to maintain it, Elena interrupted, her fingers dancing across the neural interface. We just need to show them what happens when you push humanity too far. Initiate final sequence. The Phoenix's quantum core pulsed with impossible energy as Elena executed the last phase of humanity's long-prepared plan. The Stellar Forge wasn't just a weapon, it was a key to understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. Commander, Kriegstall's voice carried genuine concern, the power readings are beyond anything in known science. If you lose control. Control was never the point, Ambassador, Elena's smile held the weight of generations of human innovation. Sometimes you have to let chaos reign. Lieutenant, release the quantum locks. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Stellar Forge's carefully contained energy burst free, but instead of destroying everything in its path, it created something new. Space itself seemed to fold and unfold, creating patterns that defied conventional physics. The swarm vessels caught in the effect began to experience every possible quantum state simultaneously. Their perfect biomechanical integration, which had made them so formidable, became their ultimate weakness. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for years found themselves torn apart not by conventional weapons, but by the fundamental uncertainty of existence itself. Impossible, Kriegstall breathed, watching as the swarm fleet's perfect formation dissolved into quantum chaos. You've weaponized reality itself. No, Elena corrected, her voice soft despite the devastation unfolding before them. We learn to work with reality instead of trying to control it. That's always been humanity's greatest strength, we don't fight the chaos, we embrace it. The remaining swarm vessels began to retreat, their collective intelligence finally recognizing a threat it couldn't adapt to. But Elena knew this wasn't just a victory, it was a message to the galaxy. Your species, Kriegstall's form shifted through colors of deep respect, we thought you were technologically primitive because you kept using old ships, old designs. But all this time we were learning, growing, understanding, Elena finished. The Phoenix isn't just a ship, Ambassador. It's a bridge between what was and what could be. A reminder that sometimes the oldest foundations can support the most revolutionary ideas. As the quantum storm began to subside, Elena felt the Phoenix's systems stabilizing through the neural interface. The ship had taken damage, but like its namesake, it would rise again, stronger for the trial it had endured. Commander, Chen's voice carried a note of pride, no swarm signatures detected within sensor range. They're gone. Elena nodded, finally allowing herself to relax slightly. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them the Phoenix protocol was successful. The galaxy needs to know that humanity is ready to share what we've learned. Krixtau moved to stand beside her, his crystalline form resonating with newfound understanding. The Confederation will have many questions about this technology. Good, Elena smiled, watching as the last traces of the quantum storm faded into normal space. Because humanity has many answers. We've spent centuries preparing not just to fight, but to help build a better galaxy. The Phoenix was just the beginning. The ancient warship hung in space, its battle-scarred hull still pulsing with the aftermath of powers that had changed the course of history. Not just a vessel, but a bridge between past and future, a testament to humanity's greatest truth, that innovation doesn't always mean throwing away the old, but learning to see it in a new light.